Hello and welcome to another episode of Perusing the Panels. I'm your host, EmArComics, and today I am being joined by TheJeanGenie. You can go ahead and say something, Jean. So, Jean is actually my girlfriend. If you've seen anything on all of our Twitter interactions about how Green Arrow and Black Canary are literally us. And Jean has done a lot of work for her city. She's designed school mascots. So I figured she was more than qualified to come on here and talk about some character design. Well, we can just hop right into it then if you want.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I'd like that.
All right. So starting off, I just want to talk about first, in your opinion, what makes in terms of like in comic books, what to you makes a good comic book design? Like, not even comic book, what makes a good costume design?
To me, a good costume design or just character design in general is something that fits into the world, fits into the theme, and is practical, but not always practical. I think that a character design doesn't necessarily have to be practical if everyone else around said character also looks, like kind of like
A little
like
goofier.
yeah, like kind of Silver Age like comic
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like like I mean
yeah.
kind of
I get
Green
what you
Arrow,
mean.
like Green Arrow, like his like original design.
Yeah.
Um, I think that with everyone looking a bit kind of goofy and a bit like out there, it fits to have characters very like colorful and stuff. But if you have a bunch of characters that look like their costumes sort of fit into their sort of world around them and sort of fit into their profession or their powers or personality, I think that having a character that sort of like has the goofy costume right beside him, I think it could sometimes look a bit odd. I think that,
Yeah. It's like if your
but
world is a lot more grounded, then it does look a little. If you throw in like Captain America's bright red, white, and blue costume into like the middle of like a dark and gritty like LA noir type comic book, it does look a little. It stands out. But if you throw them into like a comic book roster with you got Iron Man's like popping design, Thor's like
yeah,
giant helmet, it all fits.
yeah, and it could sort of like set like the sort of mood of like the comic. Like if you wanted to have like a more like sort of high spirited like comic with Captain America, you could use like something like the one you just talked about, like his like very like bright colored like original design. But if you wanted one that was a bit more
Like
not like
grounded.
dark and gloomy, but like grounded and more like kind of realistic, you'd probably go for something closer to like kind of like the Civil War MCU suit, something like that, which I've seen like a lot of comics kind of at least something close to that.
Yeah, and I remember we've talked about this one before, but how a costume can reflect a character, like their personality, like how it can reflect them as a character.
Yeah, I think that a costume can tell you a lot about somebody without having to actually know who they are. Like you can like just like read a lot of them, like if they're caught with like what they're like if they're designed to look a bit like dirty, you can see that maybe they've had like a rough like upbringing, or maybe that they're more like an adventurous person. But if they have a very like clean, put together like design, you can maybe guess that they're either like a clean freak, or they've come up in like a very like prestigious and put together. Wow. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so we're back. We had some minor tech issues happen just now. So you were saying about how a character's costume can reflect the character's personality, and I think the example that you brought up the other day that I thought was kind of interesting was you put that in the context of Rey from The Force Awakens.
Yeah, oh, Ray in general just has this like, I think that her first costume that we see her in Force Awakens is just it kind of just gives us a lot about her, and also just like just fits so like well into like the world around her. I think it, it's very like what's the word? It's a very like free flowing like
Mm-hmm.
design in general, in which but also kind of in this like way that's still kept neat, which I've always kind of like attributed to being kind of to her like sort of very adventurous personality, but it kind of being kept on Jakku and always linked to Jakku is like well as like with the color scheme being very like reflecting like the sand and everything. I think that it is also just like it just seems very like bright, or well it is very bright and it's very just
And it also kind of it also kind of immediately links you to Anakin and Luke, because when we first see Anakin on Tatooine, he's kind of got like the same beige Jedi looking robes, and then same thing with Luke. He's wearing like that full white
yeah
robe in A New Hope. So it's kind of like, it's a way
yeah
of connecting all three protagonists and telling you like this is her story. She is the protagonist. This is how she's presented to us, right?
yeah. And I even think like showing her like showing like how like part of like her costume kind of like how it's like very like built for the environment around her and like being like living in the sand and how like she's very like covered like head to toe is very like it's just very like it looks so lived in, which I really like.
Oh yeah.
You can really like just like see like it like looks very like not dirty, but like you can like kind of you just see that like it looks worn, which
Yeah, it
I
helps
just really
add to
like.
the realism and the believability, which kind of is when you're adapting any costume to live action. Like that's kind of the thing is it has to look real and it has to look practical. You know, like this, like if you put somebody in like a 400-pound bulky plastic looking suit, then it's like, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, they live every day in that suit. It's like, well, it doesn't really look like it, you know. So it's when you're adapting a costume like that, you have to think about the practicality of it and how it's going to look and all of that stuff. So that's what I was gonna say. So when in terms of adapting like a comic book costume to the screen, how do you what do you think goes into that kind of stuff? Because I know you've designed a lot of characters and you've shown me like a lot of your redesigns of like existing characters. So what do you think goes into how do you make a costume from the page look real without losing like all of the elements of it, you know?
I I think that as like a first is that you shouldn't be like scared of the original design. I know that like a lot of like movies and adaptation just feel like they're very scared of like what their like original design look like. Like I think we've talked about like the X-Men and like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
like the kind of like stuff with that
Yeah,
and how
with
they're
the
almost like
like what did you
they
expect? The yellow spandex?
yeah, we're like I mean like I feel like the yellow spandex would look awesome in that movie by the way, but
Yeah.
done right. But um I think that it should at least like know its origin, but also not be completely like absorbed into it and not be held back by its origin. I think it should keep elements, but not be like 100% linked. As in, like, if the story is different or culture is something different, it shouldn't be afraid to switch things around and make it a bit more unique to what they want it for the movie.
Right, kind of like how Batman, like no suit that they've adapted to live action has looked the same as the suit that came before it, except for like maybe like Val Kilmer's and Michael Keaton's at the start, because I think they're supposed to be the same Batman because they have the same Alfred, and Chris O'Donnell
Mm-hmm.
plays Robin in like both of those. But it's like they all can adapt the Batman suit in like very different ways because it's their own spin on the Batman suit, you know. And then you
Right.
got like and then I was gonna say, Captain America, I think is also a good example. Like how you said, don't be afraid of what came before, but don't get too absorbed in it, like in that regard of like how, like I think Captain America's first suit, like in the first Avenger. Sorry, I think we had another audio issue there. I think I was saying, what was I saying a second ago about
Captain America.
Captain America's suit? That's right. How in the first Avenger, I think that his suit, or not even the first Avenger, like Age of Ultron, I think is like one of his best suits in the MCU because it looks almost exactly like his comic book suit, but it looks like something that Steve Rogers would wear in the MCU, where it's like he's a military man. It's practical. You can see the body armor on it, but it's still got like the design of like the red, white, the blue, the star.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Captain America is Captain America and Age of Ultron literally is like my perfect definition of like just like complete like a complete like kind of costume designer, like for design in general, that just like knew exactly what, like knew its origins, knew like the designs, and knew that yes, this is still very much Captain America, but this is also Captain America now, and this is Captain America like in our world, not just like in the like a comic book page.
Yeah, and because like and a lot of, not a lot of, but certain adaptations can get a little scared of being a comic book adaptation. Like you and I have talked about it, but Daredevil is an amazing show. Luke Cage is amazing. Jessica Jones, I love Jessica Jones. Iron Fist is underrated. People don't talk about Iron Fist enough. Punisher, I think it might be like probably the right there next to Daredevil, so it's not talked about enough. But man, the Netflix shows were really scared of using the costumes. I mean, because they gave it to Daredevil because like, I mean, his looks awesome, but then and Jessica Jones, they kind of modified hers to kind of be like more of a street urban one, which looks good enough, and they put her in like the same jacket and scarf, so it's like that's the uniform, that's cool. But
Luke Cage is,
dude, Luke, his costume at that point was jeans and a yellow T-shirt.
And they couldn't even do that.
They didn't do that. I mean, they gave him a hoodie, and then the hoodie on the inside of the inside, like the inlay of the hood was yellow. But like that's the closest we really got.
Mm-hmm.
And then even Iron Fist, they didn't even really attempt the costume with Iron Fist. He just kind of wears he does martial arts in like a green hoodie sometimes.
I don't know. It's like it's very much. I think that a lot of. It's almost with it was because I was thinking about the Age of Ultron. It's like almost seen there, but I feel like it's done in a way that's good. Is that a lot of like these like when adapting character, they like to go to like this almost muted color scheme. They like to take all the colors out of it, and like
Well, because colors are silly and goofy. So if it's dark and gray, it's all that means it's serious.
Yeah, and like it's I think that's why I like the Age of Ultron Captain America so much, because it's almost there. Like with that blue, it's almost to like this is getting close. But then they have like that bright red and the bright red of like the iconic shield, where it's like this is Captain America.
Yeah.
I think if what it would have ruined that is if they were like if they made that to like a maroon or made it just like
Cause even I would say even in the movie it could be a little bit brighter, but like I think it's
no, it could.
I was gonna say I think it might be the brightest of Cap's suits, except for like the first Avenger, which is like that baby blue. Like,
are you talking about his suit that he wears?
Like in World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when that one's like I like that one a lot too. That's that one. I was gonna say because that's another one where they're taking the iconic elements of the costume and then applying it to the story they're trying to tell in a more grounded world.
And then also using it in a way that's like that just fits. Like they're having like these like very like expressive colors and these like very like bright and like kind of like and goofy looking like stuff. But then they're like kind of they're making it make sense. So like this is like like World War II propaganda. Like they wanted a superhero.
Yeah,
people wanted somebody who was super bright and super like, and they were like save America.
Yeah, so his costume. Yeah, that's the other thing about his suits in the MCU. It started as American World War II propaganda, like you said, and so it's got a practical reason for like it looks kind of goofy, but then it's like they use that and then take the goofy design of the propaganda costume and put it in a military sense without losing those aspects, which is literally like it's almost like a commentary. It's literally what they're doing with the costume from the comics itself. They're taking what was kind of a goofy, lighthearted, untextured costume, and then putting it in like an actual military scenario.
I absolutely love the I first. I think and you already know that First Avenger is like one of my favorite Marvel movies, and
Oh yeah.
I love how I love how they did that design.
And I was gonna say there was also something I wanted to talk about with, in terms of comic book, like specifically comic book design. I don't remember which artist said this. I read this a couple years ago, and after I read it, I was like, that makes sense. But now I'm like, I don't know. The comparison somebody made is that their art, Iron. I think I want to say that they were like an actual. I think they were working on the Avengers book at the time, and when they described like why comic books look so bright and how costumes like pop on the page, is because a lot of artists draw a lot of faces very similarly. Because I don't know if you can speak to this, but that artists have not same face syndrome, but like when you're drawing like Captain America versus Hawkeye, you're drawing a white blonde guy with blue eyes, and so it's kind of hard to differentiate that without making their costumes look completely different. So it's like, you put Captain America in this bright blue costume and then Hawkeye in this bright purple costume. It's like, oh, nobody could ever confuse those two. But then when you adapt that to a movie, you don't really need to do that because nobody's going to misinterpret Jeremy Renner for Chris Evans.
Yeah, I that's 100% an issue. Like, not an issue, but at least not for comic book writers, because being able to draw like a face that looks quite like similar, but doing it in different ways that make it feel like a different character is like an amazing skill. And I definitely can sometimes feel like I like have a sort of same face like thing with some of my art. But having that costume and having that like thing, like that like different like just sort of like touch to them can make the character look completely different. Even when like if you just like switched like the hair from one character to the other, it would be it would be just like
Yeah.
the same person. But
It's kind of like how people made jokes about. I remember there's like one comic book issue that like makes it's like the full joke is Batman and Superman look the same, where like to the point that it's Clark Kent accidentally ends up on Bruce Wayne's like his yacht and Deathstroke comes to kill him, and everybody just thinks that Clark Kent is Bruce Wayne because nobody really draws them that differently because they're just strong-chinned, black-haired guys.
didn't they do that also in like I remember like a comic book and one of the comic book panels of them like kind of switching costumes.
Oh yeah, the double date storyline from Rebirth. Yeah, that was a cute little issue. And yeah, it was.
I also feel like that happened once in a Lego game. Am I wrong?
No, that happened. Now you're talking about language. I mean, Yeah, that happened in Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes. That was. Yeah, it was to keep. It was to keep Lex Luthor from using kryptonite on Superman, and they literally just like swapped hair pieces around.
Yeah, I knew. Okay, I remember that from something, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, it just I think like it's like a simple outfit and hairstyle can make like little like the same face completely different and like it feel like completely different and give you a different like feeling like in general when you look at them. I mean, we both watched Justice League Unlimited. We know that every single male character is just
Big lumberjack box guy. Yeah.
And then every single like kind of female character has the same like slim looking like
the
like
Bruce
frame
Timm art style.
But when I think about it, I don't feel like Batman and Green Arrow and Superman look the same when I think about them from the the Justice League Unlimited show. I think of them having similar frames, but I don't think of them as looking as like this like a similar person, even though again probably if you just took his face and moved it slightly onto the other costume, it would be the same.
Yeah. So it's just that with it, like it's the devil's in the details essentially, where it's like the differences are there. It can just be hard to tell, and especially like if you're doing a comic book where if you're doing like an ensemble book, so you have to draw not just like Captain America and Hawkeye, but you also got to throw Thor in the background, Daredevil's over there, She-Hulk's off on the side. You got to draw all the group shots and stuff. you want to make sure each character stands out from each other, you know?
Yeah, but you also don't want to you don't want to force your comic book like illustrators to like do like a completely like super detailed different face for every single person.
Yeah.
You got to give them some leeway, which is like having that kind of similar face.
Yeah.
A lot of artists have like just like their like kind of they have their default male face and then their default female face or their default like androgynous face that they just go to immediately
Yeah.
and kind of like work off that.
Yeah, and that makes and it totally makes sense because again, if you're a comic book if you're a comic book illustrator, you're doing like I don't know, you're doing like 3 issues a month, like and you're drawing all that. So it's like you can't you're gonna rely on the same couple of face shapes, like you said, which that totally makes sense. That's why I think, especially nowadays, I think it's like genuinely a miracle that we get such detailed costumes by a lot of artists, and there are some artists who just who go insane with the details, and like massive respect to all of those artists. And then you got freaking Alex Ross over there who's just doing, biblical style paintings with every character. Like, good God.
I just think that like I think it's crazy like what like one like color like scheme change can like do to like one character.
Yeah.
It can make them look like from like I mean like back in like the whole like when like comics were first starting, like it was like like a color scheme would like change was the difference between is this character a bad guy or is this character like a good guy. I mean that's how like Hawkeye started off, like with having the very purple color scheme.
Yeah, because he was an Iron Man
villain. He's an Iron Man villain.
Yeah. And then what's it called? I was gonna say so color goes into it a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and especially because like that's also why like we talk about comic book illustrators, but like the people who do the inks, dude, are miracle workers. Because one, I don't know, there are some comic. I remember there was one Superman comic I read I want to say it was a couple years ago now, where it's a shot of him. I think he's fighting somebody, but like for whatever reason, it looks like he's missing an arm because the comic inker at the time, they miscolored it so that it was like the same red as his cape. And I remember they had to reprint that, but that was a while ago. And so it's like there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not until like somebody slips up that you really realize like, oh man, I kind of forget somebody has to color all of this. Somebody has to differentiate all these characters. They have to use the right shade of green. And that's why yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Wasn't there like I can't remember what Spider-Man it was, but wasn't there there's a Spider-Man that people like completely thought was blue, but it was the artist
I was gonna say that was
shading with blue when the suit was actually black.
I was gonna say that's like that's 2 instances of that actually.
Yeah, it's like I just know it from being a Spider-Man.
Yeah, so that was the first Spider-Man suit that Steve Ditko designed. Was supposed to be black and red, but he shaded it with blue, and so everyone, whenever they drew it, and everyone thought they said it was blue, so they did that. But then on like the bigger scale, and I'm still mad about this, and I've talked to you, but I've ranted to you about this one, is Miguel O'Hara's suit.
Mm-hmm.
In the original Spider-Man 2099 run. Everybody says, "Oh, there's some freak in the black suit," or like, "Oh, the black Spider-Man's gonna come get you." That I should probably rephrase that. The black suited Spider-Man's gonna get you. Anyways, so the black suited Spider-Man, everyone calls him the freak in the black suit, but because he's in 2099, like Nueva York, they wanted to emphasize like the bright neon Blade Runner lights, so they made the highlighting a very bright neon blue. And so then everybody saw that and they're like, oh, so he's got a blue and red suit. Even though every other page, they're like, yeah, he's in a black suit. And then now you got Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse and Shattered Dimensions, where it's like just very clearly a blue suit. And even like the Insomniac games is a blue suit. And it's like the suit was black. And like it's understandable with like the Spider-Man suit, just because like not only does the blue and black or the blue and red just look better than the black and red, but like the original Spider-Man suit, It's like it was only a couple issues with it. They didn't reference the fact that it was colored black, unlike Spider-Man 2099. But that's a personal grievance I have where it's.
I mean, speaking of the color black, most people go like out of like will go very very far out of their way to not use black. Like black as like a color is like it's just it's hard to work with. I mean, I know that like when I do my like illustrations and stuff like that, I will try my hardest not to and get to like the darkest purple I can get before I actually can go to black because of how hard it is to actually shade. I know people think that it's easy to shade with, but it's not.
Yeah, that's why a lot of shading is done with blue, right?
Yeah, blue and purple.
Yeah. Oh, purple.
Yeah,
oh,
I prefer to shade with purple.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, is that why? Like, what? I was gonna say, is that why? But I don't know if you would know this. Do you think that's why Batman's Rebirth costume, the one with the yellow outline, his cape is a purple instead of black? Is that?
Maybe. Probably.
Yeah, well,
probably. I have to look at it.
It's black on the back and then purple like interior.
Probably.
So I was gonna say, so all the comic book talk and like all the stuff, the costumes, there is just like the big thing when it comes to especially adapting them with the MCU. Do you think there is such a thing as over designing a costume?
Definitely. 100%. I think that there is definitely. I think that sometimes people can get a little bit too excited. and I mean like I'm trying to think now that you say that obviously I obviously can't think of anything, but I think that's what I was saying. Okay, in Love and Thunder, Thor's suit.
Yeah, well,
with
which one? Like the gold one or
the one with the huge helmet?
Oh yeah, yeah, that big looking thing.
That might be like one of my least favorite MCU suits I've ever seen. I've never just look at something and see like, I mean, it's Love and Thunder. It's a bit goofy. It's supposed to be, but oh my god, it was so ugly. Yeah. It was just so ugly. I honestly kind of didn't like his general suit in Love and Thunder either. It just felt very.
And it's annoying because like my favorite look for Thor in the entire MCU is also in Love and Thunder. It's
That's it. Love and Thunder.
It's the scene, or it's where he's wearing kind of like that flat leather like cuirass with like the fur on his coat. I thought that is my favorite look for Thor, like in the entire MCU.
Yes,
it's on screen for like 5 minutes. He puts it on. He puts it on, goes to look at the giant corpse, and then takes it off. And it's like, come on.
It feels so genuine. It feels so genuine. It feels so Thor.
It looks like Thor's in the comics. It's like that flat leather.
I mean, like, we're jumping off the Thor. I think one of my also, like, I love that one. But, like, the design that also went into in like, Endgame with, like, his braided beard and everything. He looked like he just stepped out of like an actual Norse like mythology story.
Yeah.
That looked like real Thor, not like MCU like Thor or comic book Thor. It looked like Thor. Which I was just like, this is amazing. I loved how they used him in Endgame.
Oh yeah, and that's I do, and that's the other thing with like kind of how you said it looks like Thor. I feel like that's another thing that people don't take into consideration a lot is whenever, like, my dad was the one to bring this up. He said that he likes Batman's suit to look less like a tailored costume and more like Christian Bale's in The Dark Knight, where they have that scene where Lucius is going over like the armor plating and how each, like, what it can do and everything, and about how it just fits Batman to have like a multi-purpose suit, and like Robert Pattinson's suit, like, the Batman, like in an age where we're getting like where DC was putting out, you got Blue Beetle's costume, you got Aquaman, who just like, and you got like the original Shazam costume, which are just like straight out of the page looking costumes, and then they do the Batman, where it's like this guarded militaristic look, and it fits Batman at the very least as a character, to have that kind of, armor on it. It wouldn't work for Superman to wear armor, like with the New 52 costume. That's why I kind of hate the New 52 look, where it's like that weird armor plating. It doesn't fit Superman, but it fits Batman. So there
Oh,
is.
you're good. You
Go ahead.
might not like my opinion on this. I am of the. I don't. Not that I don't like it, because
Hmm.
I mean, you know how much I love like
The Batman.
Batman. As much as like Arkham Knight Batman, because I'm thinking about his suit right now. I am very much of like the thing is like I don't really like a very armor based Batman.
Yeah.
Batman to me, at least, I like him looking like a shadow. I like him being more of like this being rather than this armored like sort of like
Yeah. Like he should look
thing.
like a creature of the shadows.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people have different like opinions on that, and I
I would
know
say
that.
actually, I think a lot of people agree with you in that regard. I think it's just because like with the Dark Knight and kind of like the grounded realism of the Batman, people are kind of tired of like, and I agree with you on this one. Very tired of kind of the super grounded Batman story, where it's like every director who's done a Batman project since Joel Schumacher is like, oh, we're doing like we're branching out with this and we're gonna go do a dark and gritty take. And it's like, I mean,
No
his
one's ever
best
done this
friend.
before.
I mean,
Batman,
yeah, and it's like, I mean,
very sad.
and like his best friend's an alien. Like lean into that more. He fights a giant amorphous clay being. And I think personally
I
for
want
me,
more unserious Batman.
I think Brave and the Bold nailed it because I think, and this is gonna sound so weird. I think Brave and the Bold
I
handles.
love Brave and the
I think it handles how to take Batman seriously in an unserious story because it's like Brave and the Bold Batman, and it's obviously played as a joke, but if you play this straight in a movie, it would work. Is he takes every situation very seriously. It doesn't matter how goofy it is, it doesn't matter how outlandish it is. Batman takes the situation very seriously. Do that in a movie. Like, throw Clayface in there, but if you don't have Batman be like, that looks kind of dumb, then the audience isn't going to think it looks dumb, you know? I think as long as you know how to if you can keep the audience engaged in the realism of the moment, I think it'll sell it.
like that's like one of my favorite things about Batman is that he's like this, he kind of like emotionless, all like super like uptight like person, but then like Superman's beside him and he's like all happy and like
Yeah,
then he's got like the Robins and stuff like that who are like also kind of very like not like that. And he's like
they lighten up
him
the
like
Batman mythos.
him like growing to that. I feel like we only get to see now, at least today's, we only get to see like that kind of like just moody Batman with like zero like emotions, which I feel
Yeah,
like everyone thinks that they're like it's my new take on Batman, and then it's like no, it's everyone's take on Batman now.
yeah. It's like how I was watching clips on like TikTok the other day of like some podcast where they're talking about how Superman. They're talking about the panel where Superman talks a girl down from a ledge. And I'm like, yeah, I really like that scene. And they're like, yeah, you're not going to see Batman do that. He'd probably be like, oh, like he'd just catch her from the building. I'm like, Batman knows how to level with people. Batman he's a softie. I think we can just say that. Batman's a softie when you actually like read the book. He comes off fearful to criminals, but he knows when to be a bat. He knows when to be a man. That
I
can also
mean,
be taken into context of his relationship with Selena. Anyways. Or DC doesn't want you to think that, actually. Sorry, that's not costume related. That's not costume related, but do you remember that whole thing where they said that Batman...
shut shut up, shut up. But
Hey,
I
I'm just saying, they didn't censor Green Arrow.
also, speaking of Selena, hate if we're talking about overdoing costume,
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman, the Catwoman costume, in the movie. I mean, no one likes that movie to begin with, but I
Oh,
hate
oh.
it.
I was gonna
It's
say,
not like they.
I was gonna say, I don't even know if that's over designed. I think it's just, isn't her costume literally like the ears, a mask, and just like a bra? So I'm like,
Uh,
I feel like, I don't know about over design. I feel like throwing more at that point. Like she's
no, I'm talking about. A minute, let me see if I'm. No, I'm talking about. I'm talking about like like the. It's like the where is it? Like the movie, the older movie.
You mean the one with like Michael Keaton?
I
The one
one
with
second.
Danny DeVito as Penguin?
The one, yeah, is the one where she's got like all. It looks like she's got a bunch of stitch marks on her.
Really? I thought that one was good. Well, because like you said, that one tells the story of her character because she's like, because isn't her suit like all the scars from like when the cats saved her life?
Okay, yeah, but I just think it's ugly. Okay, I can just think something's ugly.
You
I
know what?
just
That's
think
fair.
something's ugly. I
That's
think it's ugly.
I was gonna say, you know what? That's another piece of like the argument that needs to be taken into account when it comes to the comic book discussions. It's like sometimes the suit's just ugly, you know?
It can have as much meaning behind as you want. If it's ugly, it's
It can
ugly.
just be ugly.
Like,
so I was gonna say, we've talked about like how a costume can reflect a character. We've talked about how costumes can be over designed. I think this is where it's gonna get to like the real meat of the episode. How do you feel about how women's costumes are portrayed in superhero movies, Gene?
poorly. But I also feel like I have a strange opinion on it. I mean, one of my favorite type comic book characters is Wonder Woman,
Yeah,
and I mean, we know what Wonder Woman wears. Literally, just like a skirt and like not barely
I was gonna
borderline a
say
skirt,
sometimes not even a skirt.
and like all that, and I love it. I love it. It makes me happy seeing that. And even when I've seen her with pants, I sometimes am like, I just prefer original. But then, but in like a way, I feel like in that sense, at least, I feel like it almost kind of fits in with the Justice League's kind of like goofy
Yeah,
looking like demeanor and stuff like that. With like it kind of not goofy demeanor in Justice League's, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
it looks like it makes sense next to like like Superman's like outfit with his like like
the
super
tidy
big like
whities on the outside.
yeah and it's like super outlined like abs and stuff like that where it's like these people both look ridiculous and I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then
And
when you put that on screen and it's like you put an actual actress in that costume,
then I'm like, ugh.
maybe
I
you
mean,
stick with the skirt.
I I like. I mean, the Wonder Woman movie. I like the Wonder Woman movie, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when
I think a lot of people do.
she was wearing it, it was to me it looked very too much like a costume. It looked like just like a costume. It didn't
Yeah,
look like it fit in with the mascara or anything. It just looked like a costume, like she bought it,
yeah, because
which was like.
even on Themyscira, they're wearing they're not wearing like when they show Themyscira in armor. That's not even what it looks like.
And also like it was. They also like muted colors did not help there either.
Yeah, I think they tried to brighten it in Wonder Woman 1984, but we just don't talk about 1984.
I think, and MCU, where it's just every single female character, no matter like what their like sort of powers or like sort of position or like occupation are, they all get like the most like outrageous looking heels and like
Yeah, that was
like the tightest like outfit. I mean Black Widow, Gamora, and I'm trying to think of I'm sorry. Name the only two women in. I know that's not true anymore, but
No, not
I
since the
think
woke left has incepted the
oh,
MC. I'm for the record,
fuck
that's a
off.
joke. That's a joke.
I think that the way with them, like with Black Widow and Gamora, at least, I feel like both costumes I wanted to go with like this more modern look, but then they still were like, let's still kind of sexualize them,
It's
which
like, yeah, well,
having
it's like, come on, yeah, we'll
modern.
give her like a jacket with a zipper, but like, maybe don't zip the zipper up the whole way, ScarJo.
So it didn't look it looked weird, as in the fact that it was like they wanted, or like everyone else kind of have like these more like obviously not realistic because
Yeah,
like Tony Stark standing right next to her, but they wanted it to be a more modern, like kind of like real world looking like thing. But then they have Scarlett Johansson standing next to like them with like heels and her zipper like halfway down without a shirt under. But then we're supposed to believe that she's like this like assassin that is like
she's
very
doing all these hardcore stunts in heels.
yeah, which again wouldn't also just doesn't make sense in the fact that like why would you pick heels
Yeah,
when you're
well, because
trying to be an assassin?
yeah, because like you said, a character's
Loud.
like we said at like the very beginning of the episode, a character's costume should reflect the character who's wearing it. Like the practicality of it, the design of it. It should reflect who is wearing the costume. And
And it
so
doesn't have to be practical, but the thing is that when every other costume around them is trying to be,
practical, it
it's weird
looks
when
weird.
theirs
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah,
Like,
and I was
I
gonna
don't
say
know.
the constant thing I always see for the heels, at least in defense of, and I think James Gunn was the one who said this specifically with Zoe Saldana, because is it Saldana or Saldana? I
I don't
think
know.
I'm gonna say Zoe Saldana just to like
I just,
I'm gonna say Saldana until somebody corrects me. But with Zoe Saldana especially, is because she's like a foot shorter than Chris Pratt, who's like her screen partner for majority of the movie. So put her in heels so she matches up on height. But then even for like that, I'm almost like, I mean, back in like the days of old westerns, everyone had John Wayne had to stand on a box because he wanted to look taller than everyone. So keep that.
I mean, we know what they did with Robert Downey Jr. Like they gave him like sort of
Platforms
like
in his shoes that looked like regular shoes.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean like I they already have Gamora be like when she's standing next to like the Guardians be like around like the shortest one.
Yeah.
Um, it's I feel
Other
like
than
if they
Rocket.
were well obviously not other than Rocket, but I feel like having this sort of having her just wear like the normal boots that everyone else would wear. I feel like having her being a tiny bit, shorter
Yeah, because
wouldn't have been too big of an issue.
they don't add enough height to justify how impractical it is for her to throw herself around in them.
I mean, she's like literally like our first like thing we see of her is like they're talking about like she's like this deadly assassin, and all these people she killed. But then I'm like, she's a deadly assassin, but those heels, there's no way that they're not like the loudest thing like
Yeah,
ever.
and like yeah, she's this deadly assassin, so she's wearing no body armor because, and she got the mesh window.
The mesh window. I I know what the mesh window is. Like trying to like get
What do you
at
mean?
me. Like it's like the mesh window, at least what it looks like, with the way that they like because it's also mesh on her sides. It looks like kind of like an homage to her original outfit, which is like like
Oh,
like the
like the one that's like literally just like the thin strips of like black down her body.
yeah, which I'm like
Oh,
I think that's cool, but
I didn't even know that, and now that I'm thinking about it, like I can see that in my head.
it's also like
Wow.
this doesn't make any sense for Gamora to be like leaving like very vital parts of her body completely
Exposed.
open. I mean, like in that first fight, like how easy it would have been for any of like Rocket, Groot, Star Lord to just have stabbed her.
Yeah, because she has no protect. Like even like leather is like at least like lightly protective like it's better than nothing. So like she's not even wearing like a full leather jacket. She's wearing a vest.
And like,
If anything,
I
it
mean,
seems more in character for Peter to wear that.
I mean, it makes us like feel as if like she's very uncaring and like too like confident in herself, which I mean I guess could work, and like she knows she's like the deadliest woman in the galaxy and all that kind of stuff. But with how she is, I feel like she wouldn't be the type of person. At least how I've watched the movie a million times. You know that I've
Yeah.
read the comics. I don't think she would be the kind of person to risk risk a job on the fact that she was had like a big mesh part of her costume.
Just completely exposed.
It gives too much. Her costume feels like it's too carefree when
Mm,
this is a very like kind of uptight, like emotionally very
focused.
focus in like very emotionally very what's the word,
Like closed off.
emotionally closed off person, where it doesn't feel like it is when I look at her for the first time. I mean, I think her volume 2 outfit, where she has like the leather shirt and the leather shirt and then the undershirt under it,
Yeah.
like the kind of ripped looking white with the long jacket. I think I love
That goes
that.
hard. And
It's perfect. I
obviously
literally
she
see
thought it
nothing
I was gonna say
see
she
nothing
thought it
wrong
went
with
hard
it.
too because she wore it for 4 years between Infinity War and Guardians 2. While all the other characters got clothing updates, they just stuck her in the same one.
I mean, Mantis did it.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, the
Mantis
only thing I
didn't.
find the only thing I find wrong with that is the the heels again.
Yeah.
Other than that, I love her Volume 2 outfit,
I mean, because
and I
even
also I
go ahead.
also love her outfit. I totally cut you off, didn't I?
No, no, no. You go ahead.
I love her. I think another like way a great like for her character. I know it's not the same Gamora, but her Ravager outfit, where it
Oh yeah.
completely it, like it completely goes from like this very like well kept Gamora that we're very well kept with like her neat hair, very put together clothing,
Hmm.
to we see her hair's all messy. Her clothing isn't like completely clean, and it's not like
Yeah, she's almost
like there.
like a pirate.
I mean, she is a pirate. She's a Ravager.
I guess yeah, they are. They're basically space pirates.
It gives us the close to the same vibe that I got from like Peter in the first movie, which I think fits perfect for her as she's as a
As
Ravager.
a Ravager. You know what?
And
I hadn't even put that together.
also,
Or just how
you
similar
look
their
at her
costumes were.
shoes, she has normal boots. And you know what? She stands right next to Star Lord, and it doesn't ruin the movie for me. She looks fine. You know why? Because I'm guessing James Gunn realized that you can have heeled boots that are pretty tall and not have them not be heels.
Yeah, especially because
I mean,
her
you've
boots
seen me and
in
my dogs. They make me huge.
yeah, and
Pretty good
her
with some
boots in
dogs.
Volume One are the wackiest thing I've ever seen. They got
They're
like the
ugly.
because they got that weird like I get they're trying to be like an alien design, but they got like that weird hole like in the heel.
They're ugly. I'm just gonna say it. They're ugly. I don't like them.
It's just weird looking, and
I could put a rope through them and she's done. She's done. She's over. I mean, same and then like look up like Widow.
I will say
Just
on the topic
please
of
get her some.
Gamora's.
Let me get Black Widow some body armor. I'm begging you, even if it's a tiny bit. I know she's got to be flexible. Get her a little bit. Get her something.
I was gonna say on the topic of body armor though, there was this is a quote that I heard from I think it's Earth One Batman, and it's that book is divisive for some people. Some people you either love it or you hate it, and it is kind of goes against what I was saying earlier about Batman wearing body armor. There's a line in the book where he's putting on like the Batman suit. Like it's just like the thin, not spandex, but it's just a regular shirt. It's like the regular clothing. And Alfred points out he's like you should be going out there in body armor, not thin spandex. And his line is, Alfred, do you know what body armor says about someone? It says they need body armor. Or it's like, oh, what's that? Completely different. Gene, Elden Ring. What's that one dude?
Let me solo her.
Let me solo her. Yeah, where his quote was, his character's completely
Why
naked.
why wear armor if you're not gonna get hit?
That's it. Yeah, I was
I
gonna say that. So even like a lack of like in terms of let me solo her, even a lack of clothing can be a costume.
It totally can. I don't necessarily understand why this lack of clothing is only been
Applied to women.
applied to women in the MCU. Um, I will say if we're talking about women, I I love the Black Panther suit for Shuri, and I'm also
Oh yeah.
loving the kind of the new Captain Marvel look.
Oh.
Their stuff. I've been, and also Kamala. I
Oh, 100%.
I
Her costume looks
everything
straight out of
I've
the comics.
everything I've been seeing very recently, I've been loving. I have just been, you know, I have, a little bit of I'm biased for my two first Marvel women. They've gone through a lot. Both died the same.
Yeah, of
I
course.
feel like, maybe they should have gotten a better,
Better
they should have
costumes.
got the Captain Marvel, Kamala, and Shuri treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, Gamora kind of did, but anyway, I think that I think that I
I do think I
the
will.
women having I'm totally
No,
coming
go
out
ahead.
of
Go
death.
on. Yeah, women
I think
having.
women having these
Love
kind of
women.
I think women having these like sort of kind of over sexualized or kind of like weird looking or revealing costumes. I feel like there's always the weird pros and cons to it. Like if it's in like a thing where like everyone's kind of getting treated the same, and everyone kind of is looking all like dressed up and looking all like that. It fits and it looks fine.
It's
Like
like have you? It's like have you seen that one? I think it's an old piece of fan art. I think they did it for like every Avengers poster, but it was if every character posed like Black Widow, and it's like Captain America,
the
Iron
Hawkeye
Man, Hawkeye,
initiative.
like all of them just like in these hyper sexualized poses.
Hawkeye initiative. You know what I'm talking about, right?
The Hawkeye
The
one,
only
yeah.
person that, the only person I've ever seen face the camera with their back as much as Black Widow would probably be Dick Grayson.
Yeah. Oh man, and
But
that's a whole other story with that one. Ugh.
but um but
And you know what?
I
Even
think
he's a character who, in terms of like live action costumes, like you've seen his costume in Titans, right? I think it looks good. Like it looks like Dick Grayson's costume, but you can't convince me that this dude can do like a triple somersault in that costume.
yeah, I think I mean obviously you can put some like armored bits looking on it and stuff like that, but
Yeah, like padding.
there's no way that he's gonna be doing like a somersault in like a full fucking knight's armor.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what he's wearing. He's like wearing like they got like a full like plastic like body armor suit for him, and it's like head to toe. He's like got all the. It kind of looks like his Arkham Knight suit in a way. It's like it's kind of like
I
that.
like I actually like his suit in Arkham Knight, but I'm also kind of like
Yeah, but with a video
emotionally
game, it
I'm
kind of it bends
I'm
some
emotionally
believability.
biased. I'm emotionally biased to him because I love Nightwing, and
I know.
it blew my mind that I was able to play as Nightwing. So I have zero bad implications to it.
Yep. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's for and that's the thing. Kind of like we said at the beginning, it depends on the character because like Nightwing body
In the
armor.
setting,
Go ahead.
in the setting,
And the
it's
setting.
like
Although
but they
I do think
sexualize one character, sexualize them all.
dude, sexualized Green Arrow costume when?
Please, like like the little, like the green part that he has
just
on his
take
chest.
just take
Take
the
it
other shirt
off,
out.
and then give him the fishnets right there.
I was gonna say,
That
I
would
was gonna,
look great.
I was gonna say, can you should, I was gonna say you need to draw that of just like Green Arrow, but with the sexualized parts of Black Canary's costume on him instead.
Oh my god, poor Black Canary. I know
Dude,
this is what
for
I'm
real,
talking.
get her some
There's
pants.
a scene in you've definitely read it because it's in the new Green Arrow. But he's like
Yeah.
looking at her costume. He's got like his hand like on like the glass, and
Oh
he's like,
yeah, when he's in the future.
and he's like, "Is this all because of me?" It's like for me, it's a very like gut wrenching scene, but it's just she's looking at a costume. There's no pants. It's like a t-shirt. And you're like, oh my god, Ollie.
It's the jacket, the bodysuit, and then there's just no pants.
And again, I'm biased in the fact that I love Black Canary's outfit.
Like
and
that's the problem. I wouldn't change it. Like I could acknowledge that like there are certain parts of it that don't really make sense, but also if you change it, I'm gonna kill you.
I do actually like in Injustice they have like some like skins. I think they've done it in the comics too sometimes where they kind of integrate her having like pants and then having some like cutouts in the pants that have like little fishnets.
Yeah.
I am very emotionally attached to the fishnets. But I'm like I think that's one of like the worst things about being a female comic book fan where I'm like I love Black Canary's outfit. It's also really problematic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I love it.
It's like I love this costume, but why'd you draw it like this?
Yeah, I mean it's okay if I draw it. I mean like
it's why I am like genuinely terrified anytime I'm talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh,
Power Girl."
Yeah, I was gonna say because I love Power Girl.
I knew you were gonna talk about Power Girl.
Well, because I love Power Girl's character. Like I love her as a character. I think she's awesome, and I like her costume. There's a part of her costume that I feel weird complimenting. Not complimenting, but like just like it's the one part everyone thinks of when I'm like, oh yeah, I think her design's great, and they're like, why? And I'm like, oh, it's a good costume.
She doesn't have a letter there because she's still finding herself.
Well, I think that's a cool reason, but that's not why it was there. That's the reason it's there now. It wasn't when they made that design choice. Have you heard that one story about I don't remember what comic book artist did this, but they made him redesign Power Girl's costume to have a scoop neck instead of the boob window?
No!
Well,
and you...
I was going to say, every issue they did, they wanted to see how far they could go until they got caught, so they just kept making the scoop go lower and lower until it was, like, showing off the exact same amount as the boob window.
I do want a redesign of,
Power Girl?
Oh, you know what I want? I want Heart Traveling Heroes. Everything's the same, but Hal and Oliver are like wearing like their
female
wearing their
sexualized costumes,
wearing their equivalent of their Power Girl.
I just talked about that the other day. Somebody made a tweet where they're like, lost my fortune and ended up becoming gay. And somebody was like, "Oh, who is this in comic books?" And I'm like, "That's literally Green Arrow.
Oh,
like that is literally he lost his fortune and then went across the country in a small little truck with Green Lantern."
Hey, Dinah was there for a bit.
Well, Dinah was there.
People
for
forget that.
Yeah, Dinah was there for a bit, and so was that little little blue alien.
And then they said, "No girls allowed." Let me spend some alone time. Again, such a hard thing about being a female comic book fan is where it's like, I shouldn't like the original costumes. They are over-sexualized, especially for the male gaze. But I have so much like connection with them from like my childhood and stuff like that. But even like when I think about it, it's like I totally like looked at them when I was younger, but like when I thought about like who I thought was cooler, I always thought the guys were cooler. I think that like
because their costumes are just made to look objectively cool as opposed to cool if you're a dude.
Yeah, I saw the girls were wearing it. I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. And then I saw what Batman or Superman or Captain America was wearing. I was like, I want to wear that. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I never looked at Wonder Woman and thought I wanted to wear that because I'm like, there's no fucking way I could wear that. I saw Captain America and I'm like, get me that costume. I mean, you know I want that costume.
It's like Kevin Feige, or I think Elizabeth Olsen shared the story. Whenever Kevin Feige offered her the role of Scarlet Witch, And
You will never
she was
have
like,
to
oh,
wear this.
yeah, yeah. She's like, I'll have to think about it. He's like, by the way, you're gonna go home and Google her. You'll never have to wear that. Like, it was like, and I'm like, you know what? That's gotta be something that an actress considers when they're taking on a superhero role like that. It's like, dude, as soon as they offer anybody the Power Girl role in the DC universe, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, can we change? Like,
So what's the costume?
it's like, you don't gotta look into that right now.
Oh, I will say, if we're talking about poorly designed female costumes though in the new MCU, I love She-Hulk. I don't like how the costume they put her in.
Really? I loved her
It's
costume.
just
I think it looks.
very boring.
You know what? Actually, you know what? I totally get that. It's one of those overdone. I remember Godzilla Mendoza on YouTube made a video about the old Fantastic Four, like the canceled Fantastic Four movie, and in that video he made a joke about John Krasinski's suit in Multiverse of Madness, and he said if you took the four off of it and then replaced the blue with red, that could fit for Spider-Man, Deadpool, Ant-Man, and Daredevil. And if you made it yellow and blue, then it's just straight up Wolverine's costume. And I was like, man, it wasn't until he actually like said that I was like, you know what? I think an argument can absolutely be made for like an over-designed costume. And especially, and it's like not even just over-designed, but like suits that aren't made, like a suit should be tailor-made for the person, for the character, you know? And then like you look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, like what is he wearing in that movie? Like that doesn't look like an Ant-Man costume at all.
Help him.
Like, dude, that his like it really sucks because like, man, that is like the worst Ant-Man costume in the MCU.
Quantumania moment. I don't like She-Hulk. It looks like
it's just
it
kind of
looks
boring.
just like a normal. It's just like a normal workout outfit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I look like I could just see it. Like
it just kind of
someone
looks
wear
like
that.
everybody's. It looks like every other characters in the MCU is just different colors.
And again, I love She-Hulk. I know I'm kind of I'm outnumbered in the fact that I'm one of the few.
We're one of the few people who like She-Hulk.
I loved it actually. I had such a fun time watching it, and so I'm just like, give her, come on, she's been through enough. Give her, she's been through enough hate from just like,
yeah,
from everyone. Give her a nice costume. Give her a nice costume and then put her in Daredevil. That's the only reason I'm watching Daredevil. I'm not watching Daredevil for anything else.
Flip the whole like I'm watching She-Hulk for Daredevil. I'm watching Daredevil for She-Hulk. All right, call me when she. If She-Hulk's not in the IMDb cast list for, I just heard your dog.
Keep going.
That was unprofessional. But no, if She-Hulk's not in Daredevil Born Again, then I don't want the series.
I won't watch it. I won't watch it.
And speaking of Daredevil, I will say
he looked like a McDonald's toy. Ketchup versus mustard. I did like it. I did like his. I liked the form of it in She-Hulk. I didn't like the yellow.
The yellow and brown.
I think it would have looked cool in the comic. That's the thing. I think that it could have looked cool.
It does look cool in the comics because it's based on the original costume.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, it's based on but it's based on the yellow and red costume. But I was actually gonna say just his general costume, like like the.
I don't know why they couldn't have done that.
Everybody loves the Daredevil. I love the Daredevil costume, so like I'm guilty of this one. But I'm gonna be honest. It could be anybody's costume as soon as you take away the mask. Nothing.
You can't fault his design. He's blind, man.
I mean, that's a fair point, I guess, but I don't know. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like the suit should look unique to a character. You can't put anybody else in Superman's costume because that's Superman's costume. You can't put anybody else in Batman's because that's Batman's. Daredevil's costume in the MCU doesn't really have anything unique about it aside from the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why he needs his double D.
Give Charlie Cox his double Ds.
Please.
I'm starting a petition. Bring back the double Ds for Disney Plus.
I totally agree. And know. I hope. I'm definitely signing the petition to give back his double D's, and I'm hoping that She-Hulk gets a better costume in Daredevil Born Again, because there's no way she can't be in it.
She has to be in it.
I mean, why would it? I mean, she's the only reason. They know that that's the only reason why people are gonna watch. So,
Dude, for real. Like, what else are you watching a Daredevil show for?
like, snore. I don't give a Daredevil.
For legal reasons, just because this might get attention. We are joking. We do like Daredevil.
I'm not.
But oh man, okay. I was gonna say this one's been going. This one might be you know what? I'm actually happy about this. This is my longest episode, I think. Well, I think the last one was like 30 minutes, and that was my longest one. This one's, I think we're cutting into like an hour soon. I don't know. I probably should have timed this.
I mean, I realize that you haven't asked me about what my favorite costume in the MCU is. So I'm gonna ask you what your favorite is.
I was saving that for the last part, but my favorite costume in the MCU, that one is tricky. I think my favorite costume in the MCU honestly might have to be Sam Wilson's Captain America suit. I think that one looks so good.
You're gonna make my answer look stupid now.
No, go ahead. What is it?
Because that one's so cool.
What is yours?
Okay, well, I had two technically, same
Okay.
same like group. And if we're talking about comic adaptation.
Oh, I think I know it.
Comic adaptation, as well as moving something to be your own. There, to me, there has been nothing better in the MCU than the Guardians 3 like suits. They're the team suits.
Yeah, the uniforms.
Those, I was literally like, they took everything iconic out of like the original, like the ones they have in the comics, and then put it into like this one that looks great.
Yeah.
But moving, like that's more like a group thing. If they're going towards just a main, I think, just like costume that I think represents the person's personality, who they are, and everything. Kind of, I'm biased, but I think that Star-Lord's outfit is a perfect combination of, I believe the 2008 runs adaptation of Star-Lord. I know with James Gunn. I might be wrong about that being the 2008 run, but anyway.
I think it's a 2012 run, because I think
it's 2012, isn't it? Actually,
I think
2012 is when 2012 is when the first Guardians came out. So I think it might have been actually a 2008 run, 2008, 2009, whatever.
Yeah, regardless.
I think that you get like just like this overall feeling of him when you first see him. You can kind of see who he is as a person. He's very like just like not a very put together. He's rough around the edges.
Very renegade.
And yeah, and I just think that like it is a costume that sure you could see it on other people, like, but you wouldn't. I feel like you wouldn't get the same feeling. You would see it like on another Ravager, and sure you would think Ravager, but you see
that
him.
One is tailor made for Peter Quill.
Yeah, and I think that it works so well, as well as like I think I'm sure you've noticed it, but you can very much see him as a character get more put together from 1 to 2. He goes from very, very scruffy with his first outfit to being a lot more put together when he's with the Guardians. He's got his sideburns and his hair is like so much more put together, and like he's got his little like he's got a little swirl that I always draw him with, and then back back all the way down to being a very messy Star-Lord in 3, where it's like you can just, I feel like him as a character, he's constantly able to see what like him as like just his personality and where he is as a person just through his appearance and his costume.
Yeah.
I love Star-Lord's costume. I mean, My least favorite is the long jacket, but I love all of
Really?
them.
I love the long jacket.
I just don't like it. I don't know. I don't
What?
like it. I don't like it. I don't like the stupid scarf. I
I
like
love
it.
the scarf. What?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
You know
Icky.
that's fair. I mean, I like that it swooshes. I'm realizing that about a lot of like characters, and I think I realized it in the MCU back in 2018. Nobody has enough capes. There are no capes in the MCU except like at the time in 2018. I was right.
You're right.
It was Thor and Vision.
Wanda
Well, now she does. That's what I mean. It's
is
like back like during Infinity War when it's like everybody was in one movie. I was like, man, nobody has a cape, and I like capes. I like how they swoosh around. I like
Valkyrie in Mighty Thor. They both had capes, right? Valkyrie has a cape.
yeah, but she wasn't in Infinity War. She was in Endgame.
Oh yeah,
That's what I mean. They finally started adding capes.
and then also in Love and Thunder, Mighty Thor, she has a cape, right?
Yeah, she has a cape now. They added
Sorry,
capes because in Infinity War,
you said that. You said that I was looking at my figures, and I was like looking at all the ones that have cape.
yeah, no,
Adam Warlock also has a cape.
yeah, they added characters with capes because back when Infinity War came out, I complained about there being no capes. That's why DC stays on.
You had Doctor Strange.
Oh, he has a cloak. It's different.
Oh,
I'm kidding, but I think he corrects Thor on that. But no, I like Doctor Strange. That's another one. You know what? I wanted this episode to be kind of about just like general costumes, like in comic
Doctor
books.
Strange
But I was gonna say
isn't near perfect. It's perfect. I can't.
it's so good.
I actually like. I know I was talking about Star Wars being perfect, but the things I can't even say anything bad about Doctor Strange's.
It's so good.
There's no one that I don't like with him. It's just perfect.
I was gonna say I know we've said our favorites in the MCU already, but maybe would you be willing to come back on the podcast for another episode where we just talk about maybe like our top 10 favorite comic book suits in general, but like adapted comic book suits, like live action comic book suits.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
I was gonna say because I think that'd be fun because this one, I would say this one's already running kind of long, and I like I like having this one be a general conversation about just suits in general, about how they can reflect a character, they can be over designed, they have to fit the story being told.
Though I know I'm kind of hard to understand sometimes because I'm rambling. It's
No,
weird to talk with because I talk a lot with my hands.
no, I thought you were great. But yeah, so I was gonna say I think we can go ahead and end this one off at this point because it's running long. I'm definitely gonna have you back on. I'll say that you're definitely coming back. So
I hope so.
And again, I want to thank you for joining me. You guys can find Jeannie on Instagram and Twitter at TheJeanGenie, and you can follow her on there. So I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank Jean for joining me on this on the podcast for this episode. Love you, babe. And we
Thank
will.
You.
Did you say thank you?
I don't know why.
I said love you.
I don't know why I said that.
Ouch. All right, gonna go put some ice on that wound after this one.
Is that an I know moment? I just can't solo you.
I mean, it would have been cooler if you said I know, but now it's.
I don't know. It felt like a formal send off. I didn't know what to say. Shut up.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys next time.